Today I've been busy filming for Farmers Weekly at home, so haven't really done anything farm-wise today. It's got dark, it's rainy, so our last shot is having to be with some DIY lights. It's all about the step ladder in the grain shed. This video is going to turn out amazing, I'm sure of it. This week I've been doing some filming for FW, and one of those things has been to use these, these hedge whips to block up a gap in this bit of hedge. So we've used all sorts, so hawthorn, rowan, hazel, wild rose, lots and lots of different ones. So it's a case of making a bit of a slot in the soil, dropping the whip in, heeling it in, putting the stake in, and then the spiral to protect it. So hopefully in not too long, and when the spring comes, these hedge plants will be ready to grow away and form a really healthy hedge, which will provide space for birds to nest, and also for lots of other wildlife and creepy crawlies. Now November is a perfect time to plant these these whips, these mini hedge plants, because they're actually dormant right now. So it means that when the weather does warm up, they'll be ready to kind of jump into action and grow when the temperature rises. The adventures of the wimpiest farm dog ever. He won't come through that bit there because there's nettles. Come on! No? If I have to come back and get you, Ralph? Not having any of it. I've had to pick him up, and we're gonna have to climb over the gate because he couldn't possibly go through the nettles, could you? Oh, but he's just so cute, isn't he? You can't get cross at that. Hey? Come on then. Oh gosh. Right, we're over. Come on then, Ralph. I've walked the long way around basically to come and check the sheep. Just thought I'd have a walk over the Aussie drape, which, yeah, pretty happy with how it's looking. You don't want it too big at this stage going into winter. It can, the frost can get hold of it. It's not too thick. We don't like to pound ours too heavily. We like to give it the chance to branch out. But yeah, pretty pleased with how it's looking. As you can see, a few of the lower leaves are a little bit yellow. But other than that, it's looking good. You can see though, water really standing. This is just the tram line here, so. But the field itself is very squelchy. I do have to keep my eye on Ralph in this field. We're lucky that we've got lots and lots of hares, but he definitely would chase one, given half the chance. You can see he's sniffing for one now. This beck meanders round quite a bit of the farm, and it's the fullest I've seen it. We definitely all have a bit of a soft spot for this sheep. With it being so damp, the shavings in the hen huts are just taking on a lot more moisture from the atmosphere. So my next job is going to be top up their shavings, top up their hay, and yeah, make their beds a little bit nicer. The first thing I've done is gather some hay for the nest boxes and some shavings for the hens as well. And finally, I've just got a sweeping brush. Now, most people would have thrown this sweeping brush out. It's really short, but actually that's not how farmers do things. And this short-handled brush comes in extremely handy for one of the huts, which is a bit lower in height, so a full-length brush handle is actually really hard to use in there. So that is why you don't throw stuff out. I've got 3 huts like this to sort, but I'll show you the one with, the most exciting hens, which are the big fluffy ones, so the Orpingtons. I'll show you this one. So they're not too bad, they're not too dirty, but I'd like them just to have a few more shavings down and a bit more hay in their nest box. I do have to be a bit careful because, as I've mentioned in my other videos, we're in a housing order, so they have to be shut in and they do want to come out, so I have to make sure that I close this mesh door behind me every time I come in. So these guys are now all clean. Shavings, some nice hay, and then they're just chilling up there out of the way. I've decided that it's cold enough now to put Shirley's rug on. So she's retired, she's not clipped, she's got a really long coat, but it is just getting that bit colder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang her rug out to air, and then I'm going to bring her up to give her a good brush because she is really, really muddy before I put her rug on. She is looking so cross with me. She's like, where are you taking me? And a big sigh to go with it as well. She won't be saying that when she's got a nice hay net and a nice brush. This is what I mean when I say Shirley has a lot of coat and why I'm only just putting a rug on her. And you can also see how muddy she is as well. She loves rolling, but a good brush and that'll come out and she'll be ready to have her rug on. Nails painted and looking way better, aren't you, Shirls? I'll just get her rug on. And yeah, so she's still, you can see she's still a bit dirty, but there's no dust left in there. So I'm happy to get her rug on and get her back in the field. It's another incredibly wet day here. I think what's really interesting is how most of the sheep, you can see, have their heads pointing that way. That's because the wind is coming from, well, in front of me, and they know how to turn their backs to the wind and try and keep themselves as warm and sheltered as possible. Tonight I'll be heading to a talk on ewe nutrition, and specifically ewe nutrition in the build-up to lambing. Now this is really, really crucial. Basically you've got to keep the sheep in tip-top condition, but also make sure that they're not too well fed so the lambs grow too much. So there's quite a lot to it, so really, really interesting to go to this. It's hosted by our vets, which is really, really good. They have a real expert who basically just knows her stuff on sheep and what we should be doing. So it's a really, really great opportunity that we have to be able to go to something like this. I've been to a couple of other ones of these. So one was about tupping, one was about clostridial diseases. So they've been really, really useful for me, particularly when we only started back with sheep. Well, this will be our third lambing. So things do change, diagnosis stuff, treatment. So it's really, really important to keep up to date. Just been to feed the tups and Ralph is on a mad one. Does anybody else's dog do this? Oh, I think he's tired now. Are you tired? Good lad. Come on then. I'm not gonna lie, there is definitely a curse with NFU filming because it is absolutely hammering it down again. So just working out how best to get our shots with Erin. We wanted to see some sheepdogs in action, but as you can see, it's very, very wet. So fingers crossed we'll manage that later. This is Theo the sheepdog, so called because when he was a puppy, he looked like Theodore from Alvin and the Chipmunks. This rain is just getting worse and worse. We're really, really desperate to film with Erin and see one of her sheepdogs working, so fingers crossed we'll manage that. But yeah, the weather is not looking good to get cameras out at the moment. Setup ready, getting mic'd up, cameras, and Theo just chilling. Cameras, lights all set up. That's Lee, our cameraman for the day, and the rain is just getting worse and worse. It's torrential. Even the cows are taking cover now. Here with some blue-faced Leicesters, very different to what we have at home. Not that hardy as well, so that's why they're inside, not as equipped to deal with the Welsh weather here. I'm not convinced. What do you think? Luckily, there was a break in the weather and we were able to see Erin and Theo at work. And that's the Hebrideans penned by Erin and Theo. Well, that's me over and out for another episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe to my channel, like and share as well. Thank you.